Your daily habits shape your destiny in ways that are often invisible at first, but become powerful over time. Every small choice, repeated consistently, forms a pattern that directs your life, either toward your goals or away from them. It's easy to overlook the significance of a habit because on its own, one act may seem trivial. Drinking a glass of water instead of soda, waking up 15 minutes earlier, reading a few pages of a book. These actions might not feel life-changing in the moment, but compounded over weeks, months, and years, they become the foundation of your future self. Think of your habits like the trajectory of a plane. If a pilot alters their course by just a few degrees, it might not be noticeable after a few minutes. But over the course of a long flight, that slight shift could result in landing in a completely different country. In the same way, the small things you do every day, how you start your morning, how you respond to stress, whether you choose to exercise or sit on the couch, are all setting a course. They may not feel urgent or important at the time, but they are quietly influencing who you become. Most people underestimate the power of consistency. They think transformation comes from sudden bursts of motivation or big, dramatic changes. But true transformation usually comes from mundane discipline. It's not about one intense workout. It's about showing up every day even when you don't feel like it. It's not about reading an entire book in one sitting. It's about reading 10 pages every night. These tiny actions are like drops of water, individually small, but capable of carving through stone when applied consistently. One reason habits are so powerful is because they bypass willpower. Willpower is a limited resource. If you rely on motivation or sheer effort to make good decisions every day, you'll eventually run out of steam. Habits, on the other hand, work in the background. Once a behavior becomes automatic, it no longer drains your energy or attention. This means that by establishing good habits, you create a structure that supports you even on your worst days. You no longer have to negotiate with yourself about whether to do the right thing. It just becomes what you do. This is especially important when it comes to identity. The things you do regularly inform the way you see yourself. If you go for a run every morning, over time you begin to think of yourself as someone who is disciplined, healthy, and active. That identity shift makes it even easier to maintain the habit, because your actions are now aligned with your self-image. On the other hand, if you constantly make excuses or procrastinate, those repeated behaviors reinforce an identity of someone who can't follow through, and that becomes a self-fulfilling cycle. Changing your life, then, doesn't require massive overhauls. It requires paying close attention to the small decisions you make each day. It requires asking yourself, is this action moving me closer to the life I want or further away from it? This question can be applied to everything. How you spend your time, what you eat, how you speak to others, what you focus on. Over time, those tiny yeses and nos accumulate, and their effects compound like interest in a savings account. The beauty of habit-driven change is that it puts the power in your hands. You don't need to wait for a new year, a new job, or some external event to start living better. You just need to choose differently today, then do it again tomorrow. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes. Momentum builds, confidence grows, and soon the person you're becoming looks less like a wish and more like a reality. Ultimately, your future isn't shaped by what you dream about or what you say you want. It's shaped by what you do, especially what you do regularly. Your habits are the architecture of your destiny, and the good news is you get to design them. Every day is a chance to lay another brick in the foundation of the life you want. The choice and the power is yours. Your environment influences your mindset in powerful and often subtle ways. The spaces you inhabit, the people you interact with, and the messages you absorb all play a role in shaping how you think, how you feel, and how you behave. Many people assume their mindset is purely a matter of willpower or personal choice, But the truth is that your surroundings act like invisible hands nudging your thoughts and attitudes in certain directions, sometimes without you even realizing it. Consider the effect of being around negative people. If you are constantly surrounded by individuals who complain, criticize, or carry a pessimistic outlook, it's almost impossible not to be affected. Even if you start off with a positive attitude, over time that negativity seeps into your thinking. You begin to anticipate the worst, doubt your abilities, or adopt a cynical view of life. This doesn't happen because you're weak-minded. It happens because we're wired to mirror the emotional tone of the people around us. Human beings are social creatures. We pick up on cues, moods, and energy. That means your mindset is not formed in isolation. It's influenced by your social atmosphere, like a sponge absorbing the emotional climate around it. This influence isn't limited to people. Your physical environment, your home, your workplace, even your digital space, can either support or sabotage your mental clarity. A cluttered, chaotic environment can leave your mind feeling scattered and overwhelmed. On the other hand, a clean, organized, and inspiring space can help you focus, stay calm, and feel more in control. It's not about perfection, it's about intentionality. When you design your environment to reflect the kind of mindset you want to cultivate, you make it easier to stay aligned with your values and goals. The media you consume also shapes your inner world. Constant exposure to fear-driven news cycles, toxic social media feeds, or shallow entertainment can slowly chip away at your mindset. You may not even notice the impact right away, but over time it adds up. You become more anxious, more reactive, or more disconnected from what truly matters to you. The mind is like a garden. Whatever you plant there will grow. If you fill it with encouragement, insight, and growth-oriented content, it will flourish. But if you feed it with noise, negativity, or distraction, it will struggle to thrive. This is why it's crucial to be intentional about what you allow into your mental space. Just like you'd be selective about what you eat to nourish your body, you should be just as discerning about what you feed your mind. One of the most powerful aspects of environment is the concept of social norms. People tend to adapt to the standards of behavior that are common in their group. If you're part of a community where ambition, health, and learning are prioritized, you're much more likely to adopt those values. But if you're in a setting where procrastination, gossip, or unhealthy habits are normalized, it becomes harder to rise above them. This is why who you spend time with matters so much. You don't have to completely cut people out of your life, but you do need to be aware of how they influence you. Sometimes the best thing you can do for your mindset is to spend more time with those who challenge you to grow, who believe in your potential, and who live in alignment with the kind of life you want to create. Changing your environment doesn't always require dramatic action. It could be as simple as setting up a dedicated space for creative work, choosing to listen to inspiring podcasts during your commute, or limiting your exposure to draining conversations. These small changes can have a big cumulative effect on your mindset. They create conditions that support the way you want to think and feel, making it easier to stay focused, motivated, and mentally resilient. At its core, your environment is either helping you or holding you back. The more intentional you are about shaping it, the more control you'll have over your inner state. You may not be able to change everything overnight, but you can start by making small, deliberate shifts. Over time, those changes will add up, and you'll begin to notice that your mindset reflects the quality of the world you've chosen to build around you. The key is to remember that mindset isn't just something that happens inside of you. It's something shaped by what surrounds you, and that means you have the power to shape it in return. Personal responsibility is transformative because it shifts the power over your life from the outside world back into your own hands. When you take full ownership of your actions, decisions, and outcomes, you begin to realize that your life is not something happening to you. It's something you're actively creating. This shift in perspective is more than motivational talk. It's a deep internal pivot that affects how you think, how you act, and ultimately, how you experience the world. Taking responsibility doesn't mean blaming yourself for everything that goes wrong. It means accepting that while you can't control every event, you are always in control of how you respond and what you do next. People often give away their power without realizing it. They blame their circumstances, their past, other people, or even luck for the state of their lives. And while it's true that life isn't fair and that everyone starts from different places, dwelling on what you can't control keeps you stuck. It traps you in a mindset where change depends on someone else, on something improving outside of your influence. But the moment you decide to stop waiting and start acting, something fundamental changes. You begin to understand that your choices, no matter how small, carry weight. You realize that progress, growth, and healing are possible when you stop outsourcing responsibility for your happiness and success. This mindset opens the door to personal growth. Instead of saying, "I can't do this because of that," you begin asking, "What can I do now with what I have?" That one question shifts you from helplessness to resourcefulness. Suddenly, obstacles become challenges to overcome rather than excuses to surrender. You no longer view failure as final, but as feedback, something to learn from rather than something to be ashamed of. When you take responsibility, you stop fearing mistakes because you trust yourself to handle them. That self-trust builds confidence, and confidence fuels action. The more you act, the more progress you make. The more progress you make, the more empowered you feel. It becomes a cycle of growth and transformation, all rooted in the choice to own your life. Another powerful aspect of personal responsibility is how it strengthens your relationships. When you take ownership of your behavior, you become more accountable, more honest, and more aware of how your actions affect others. You stop blaming and start communicating. You no longer fall into the trap of playing the victim or trying to control other people to feel better about yourself. Instead, you focus on what you can do, how you can listen better, speak more clearly, set boundaries, or show up with integrity. People respect those who take responsibility, and that respect leads to deeper trust, stronger connections, and less drama. Taking responsibility also frees you from resentment. Holding on to anger or frustration about what others did or didn't do keeps you emotionally stuck. It keeps you anchored in the past, but when you decide to let go of blame and take ownership of your healing, you start to move forward. This isn't about excusing bad behavior or pretending things didn't hurt. It's about choosing not to let those experiences define you or dictate your future. You get to decide how long you carry that weight. Responsibility gives you that choice. The truth is, personal responsibility is not always easy. It requires courage, humility, and a willingness to look in the mirror without flinching. It means confronting uncomfortable truths and resisting the urge to make excuses. But it also means reclaiming your agency. It means living on purpose rather than by default, and that is where real transformation begins. Not when your circumstances change, but when your mindset does. Living with personal responsibility doesn't guarantee a smooth life, but it guarantees a stronger, more resilient version of you. A version that can navigate setbacks without falling apart, that learns from pain rather than being defined by it, and that leads instead of waiting to be led. When you understand that you are the author of your life, not just a character in someone else's story, you begin to write a better future for yourself. That is the transformative power of personal responsibility. It returns your life to where it always belonged, in your own hands. Success is a result of intentional choices made consistently over time. It doesn't arrive by accident or appear out of thin air. Behind every achievement there are dozens, if not hundreds, of small, deliberate decisions that paved the way. The people who seem to have it all rarely got there by chance. They chose specific paths, committed to daily habits, made sacrifices, and said no to distractions in order to say yes to growth. The foundation of success is built not on luck or talent alone, but on the clarity and commitment that intentional living brings. Living with intention means knowing what you want and aligning your actions with that vision. It requires you to pause and ask, what am I doing this for? Whether it's how you spend your mornings, how you approach your work, or who you surround yourself with, every decision carries weight. When you drift through life without intention, you fall into patterns that may feel comfortable in the moment, but pull you away from your long-term goals. You say yes to things out of obligation or fear of missing out. You waste hours on activities that add nothing to your growth, and then you wonder why your life feels misaligned. Intentional choices, on the other hand, are about being clear on your priorities and courageous enough to act on them, even when it's hard. One of the most powerful intentional choices you can make is to take control of your time. Time is the currency of success. Everyone gets the same 24 hours, but not everyone uses them the same way. Successful people don't just fill their days, they invest them. They protect their time from meaningless tasks and distractions, and they use it to build skills, nurture relationships, and work on what matters most. This doesn't mean every moment is perfectly optimized, but it does mean that their days are shaped with purpose. They make time for what truly moves the needle in their lives, even when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable. Another critical aspect of intentional choice is how you handle failure and setbacks. When you live reactively, failure feels like the end. It feels like something that happens to you, something out of your control, but when you live intentionally, you see failure as part of the process. You recognize it as feedback, not defeat. You choose to learn from it, to adjust, to move forward with more wisdom than before. This mindset doesn't come naturally to everyone. It's a choice. It's the decision to not let a moment define you, but to define how you respond to the moment. That response is what shapes your long-term success. Intentional choices also mean being selective about your influences, who you listen to, who you take advice from, and who you allow into your mental space matters more than most people realize. Success is often the result of choosing to surround yourself with people who challenge you to rise, who reflect the kind of values you want to live by. This could mean changing your circle, limiting time with those who drain your energy, or seeking mentors who inspire you. It's not about cutting people off without reason. It's about understanding the power of proximity. You become like the people you spend the most time with. Choose wisely. Making intentional choices isn't glamorous. It often requires saying no to things that are easy, fun, or popular in order to say yes to something more meaningful in the long run. It might mean waking up early to work on a goal instead of sleeping in. It might mean declining an invite to stay focused. It might mean pushing through discomfort instead of taking the easy route. These are the quiet decisions that don't get applause but make all the difference. Over time, they compound into success, not overnight, but inevitably. In the end, success doesn't come from chance. It comes from clarity. It comes from knowing who you are, what you want, and being willing to make the kind of decisions that support that vision every day. It's not about being perfect, it's about being intentional, about choosing growth over comfort, progress over perfection, and purpose over distraction. Every decision you make either takes you closer to the life you want or further away from it. And when you choose with intention, success stops being a dream and starts becoming your reality.